Inside the Birds is back. What's up, everybody? It's Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan for a midweek Inside the Birds. And this podcast and many others in the middle of the week going forward, Adam, is going to have a little bit of a different feel for our listeners because this year Inside the Birds has a little bit of a different feel. We got new programming on the schedule, right? So one of our new shows, and we'll get into all of them real quickly, is a tape breakdown show called Inside the Tape with Clay Harbor, former Eagles tight end, who's now on our post-game show, and also Greg Cosell, who's on our pre-game show. They're going to do an awesome job examining the matchups for each week based on the tape that they've seen the prior week and the weeks before. So our show, our midweek mashup, as I like to call it, is going to be hard news, going to be intel, things we're hearing, injuries, which we're going to get to today, and just have a little bit of a different look. And I'm excited about all of the newness for Inside the Birds this fall season, this football season.
Yeah, this show's completely different that we're doing today. It's Wednesday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern. It's transactions, it's injuries, it's news, it's intel, analysis, and we don't usually do the coaches press conference stuff. You can get that anywhere. We only talk about it when we think it means something. And there's some good stuff coming from Brian Johnson in particular. We own up to not guys should have gotten the football, but there's a reason for it. Who didn't get the ball? But the bottom line is when you make a trade for DeAndre Swift and everyone and their mother sees that he's not getting the football when you're having trouble moving the football, there's a problem.
There definitely is.
Yeah, I appreciate him. Addressing it. He didn't hide from it, which is good. He was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But that was that. So yeah, things are going to change here. We love it. We got so much new content. We're going to get right to it.
Yeah, definitely. So this week already on Tuesday morning, I believe, was it Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning? Either way, I forget what day. Tuesday morning, our new show featuring it's a Derek Gunn produced show called Gun on One. He's brought it to the Inside the Birds platform. We're really excited to have it. And we've been working together to make sure that his shows are bringing people the untold stories of Eagles past and present. And the first show, which is already up, is a great example of that. I don't think anybody has ever gone back and looked at the first offensive line that Jeff Stoutland ever coached and talked to those linemen about, did they realize that they were being molded by somebody as special who was going to wind up being considered the best or one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL. And that was the 1993 Cornell football team's offensive line. Derek caught up with 4 of them, had a great interview. The stories, the walk down memory lanes of all things Jeff Stoutland are just gold. It's just an awesome, awesome segment. And it's up on our YouTube and podcast platform. It's just a really fascinating insight into Jeff Stoutland, who's a fascinating guy.
He is, and the rock story, we're not going to give it away, but it's hilarious. And the beauty of Derek is because he connects so well with people. It's former coaches, former executives, former players, and over the course of time, he's going to hit all those guys. Former players for sure. There's one that we're not even going to go into it. We'll see if that pulls that one off.
Right.
Pretty cool story, but no one does it better than D Gun. It's Gun on One exclusively on the Inside the Birds platform. Obviously our YouTube channel and all of our podcasting platforms. So any way you can get it, if you follow us on our Inside the Birds social medias, the links are there, but you can't really miss it. You access it, you access everything else. So that's great. We're so very fortunate to have him. We love having him in our family here.
Right. That's traditionally, as we go forward, most likely to drop on Thursday or either Wednesday or Thursday mornings. We're still figuring that out because Q&A is returning to the Inside the Birds platform. Very happy to tell everybody that it'll be, they're going to listen. It made sense to just get the first 2 games because they were in such a condensed amount of time out of the way. So their first episode will be on Tuesday of next week. And that'll recap both the season opener and the game against the Vikings, and they're excited to be back, and we're excited to have them back.
So great, because we had so many emails, Twitter, Facebook, but a ton of them on our YouTube comments, and they were like, "What's going on? What are you guys doing?" And we couldn't really answer because we just finished our agreement, folks. When Geoff and I, we own this company, so we can't announce anything. And Geoff will yell at me until the deal's done, and Josh Weinfeld, our business manager. So I'm like, I can't. Particularly for our Patreon people on our chats and ones, I kind of hint as much as I can before you yell at me. So I'm like, all right, what can I get away with where I'm not going to get in trouble? So I
Mhm.
try to hint, but I think it was you who said something on, maybe it was on YouTube. We're working on it. It's coming, but we couldn't announce it until, as you just did right now. As a matter of fact, it's great. So
Right.
it's been quite the last couple weeks. And then the big one is John T. Filippo has joined us. He's going to, I cannot wait till you hear that. It's only for Patreon exclusively. No offense to anyone else is breaking down tape. This is arguably one of the best quarterback coaches in the National Football League in the last 25 years. He's widely recognized in coaching circles as one of the best. It's not just me saying it or you saying it. It's the truth. It's the way coaches think of him. You know what he did with Wentz and other quarterbacks, Derek Carr, the list is long. Johnny Manziel, he got Johnny Manziel functional, and other quarterbacks over the years. But John's going to break down later today for our Patreon people the tape from a coach's standpoint, what he sees, what he likes, the dislikes, what New England tried to do to Jalen Hurts and their offense. He's gonna talk about, and John faced Bill Belichick when he was the play caller from Minnesota,
Right.
with the Vikings in 18, and what the challenges of going against Belichick. This is what really happened in Week 1. They got that kind of game. It was a struggle for the Eagles on offense, and John's going to break it down only like a coach can, and special for our patrons on Patreon.
Exactly. And then we'll have that up sometime as soon as possible this week. So again,
Today.
that's today, right? Patreon.com/inside the birds to become a member and get all those benefits, including our extra podcast, 2 per month, extra live streams that we do, Ask ITB live streams, the Discord chat with Adam. And like I said, we're always trying to give our Patreon members more reasons to sign up. So again, next week, just for clarity, Q&A Tuesday, Gun on One Wednesday. That'll drop sometime Wednesday along with the ITB midweek mashup. And then Thursday, you will get Inside the Tape with Clay Harbor and Greg Cosell. All right. Good stuff there. I want to get into some of the intel that we've got, news, information, because it was a busy last 48 hours for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I hope everybody appreciates just how good, I think we said this a couple of times in the offseason, how good Eagles linebacker play was last year and how rare it was to see Eagles get good off-ball linebacker play and stay healthy, because already Nakobe Dean is out for at least 4 games. He's on short-term IR. He sprained his foot in the game against the Patriots, we're told. And honestly, there's a bright side to this, right, Adam? Because we were told that there were some internal concerns that this thing could be a lot worse than a foot sprain.
Yeah.
Initially.
Yes, we knew that there was a concern that it could have been the Lisfranc injury, the dreaded Lisfranc. It's not.
Oh, that would have
Goodness.
been awful.
Yeah. So it's not. It's a sprained foot. Minimum. Now you'd reported on Monday. It's 4 games about, and it's funny because Sirianni said a couple weeks, because a couple to me is 2.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's 4 weeks, as you called it. So, and minimum, by the way, it could be. See, now the rules have changed over the years with these reserve lists. Before you had PUP used to be 6 weeks, 2-week acclimation period. You can come back in week 9. The coaches and executives had enough of that, so they got it with the short-term IR. You can play in week 5. You don't have to. You could. I mean, you designated the player for return, but you have 21 days to activate him. But he can play in week 5, in game 5. They don't have to wait for 3 weeks to end. So if he's ready to go in week 5, he's ready to go. But man, it's a blow to their defense. Let's call it like it is.
It is. It's a blow to the defense. He's a talented kid. I thought, and we'll get to this in a little bit. I thought against the run, he was very active, played well against the run. And he wears the green dot, I mean, on the helmet, right? That makes him the leader. This was supposed to be an emergence for him. Now, he still can have plenty of the year left. But again, it goes back to what we talked about, the risk of going into the year with just 3, or into this game, right, with just 3 active off-ball linebackers, Nakobe Dean, Zach Cunningham, and Christian Ellis, and all 3 of them had to play. And then by the end of it, when Nakobe Dean left, they had to play Terrell Edmonds in sort of a linebacker-like role. There was a risk inherent with it, and unfortunately, they had to face the consequences. They won 25-20, so they can say they survived it. But as you go into a short turnaround game against the Vikings Thursday night, you will not have Nakobe Dean. You have Zach Cunningham. You have Christian Ellis. Now they've signed Nick Morrow off the practice squad. The good part and smart part of bringing him back was that he was with you all camp long, so he knows the defense. But there's no question And I'll also mention that they obviously signed Rashaan Evans, the former Titans first round pick, to the practice squad, who was on the street. I mean, it's a nice reinforcement, but let's just remember he was on the street, right? To me though, Adam, it doesn't really. There's not much of a silver lining here, other than that Nakobe will be back in 4 weeks. This is now a thin area made even thinner by injury.
Yeah, look, we're getting into it. We told you weeks ago, Zach Cunningham, the teams will attack him, not on third down, especially. Like everyone thought, on base downs, they sure did.
Yep.
So that's going to be a problem. He's a good run guy. Boy, the run defense is really good, but they got housed on the what we're told is the second level.
Yes.
And that does worry me a little bit. That's going forward here. Christian Ellis is a flash player, but as we were told by a very high level personnel source with another team, when he's watched Ellis going back to his days, is it Idaho State? Is that where he went?
I thought it was Idaho.
Idaho, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Idaho. The tape shows it. This guy's in college scouting. He said he gets stuck sometimes. He's got the cool thing. He's got a lot of ability. It's a good find for the Eagles. Really good job by them finding him, but he's not a starting level player. So they got issues here. That on the short week, you would think would be Christian Ellis who starts. That's not a lock. But as you said, Morrow knows this defense. He's been with them the whole offseason. It's good that they brought him back. And what's interesting, they did not elevate him. They signed him off. So he still has 3 elevations. Now, to get back to the practice squad, his contract would have to be terminated.
Right.
Because he was not elevated. So just keep an eye on that. And the Eagles did a great job last year of manipulating the practice squad, using elevations correctly. Sometimes we were like, how are they going to get this done? And they would get it done. They would use them correctly and it would work out. And it's hard for us to doubt it. So they've done it like that. But Rashaan Evans is a talented football player. He's got an average build. He's not super small. He's not 250. He's in 230s, probably mid to high 230s, maybe even 240. But this guy could tackle. Decent in coverage, we're told, but as you said, he was on the street. There's a reason for it. He's now on his third team in 3 years, so you have to be real with that. There's a reason for it, and this is a weak group of the defense. We knew this coming in. Everyone watching knew this, and we'll see how it goes going forward here. But this is an area that teams are going to exploit.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear Greg and Clay's observations on the linebacker position, which again, that's for this week, is going to drop tonight. We're going to drop it as soon as they're done recording it, although going forward it'll be on Thursday. And I look forward to talking about this on the pregame show, because this is obviously a spot that I would think that any opponent would want to take advantage of with the Eagles. And again, just be really pleased with what TJ Edwards was able to be, because like you said, Christian Ellis is a good story of development as far as undrafted free agent, spent his time on the practice squad, came up and helped special teams last year. But this is a whole different animal being asked to be, if he's asked to start or play a prominent role. And, they're going to have to coach him up real quick going forward here.
Yeah, and you got Hawkinson, TJ Hawkinson, who was not with the Vikings last year when the Eagles housed him.
Right.
Well, they got Hawkinson, Jefferson, Addison.
Yeah.
They got crushed on crossers and on the second level plays. This is coming, folks. The issues the Eagles have at safety and linebacker were exploited in week 1. It's only going to get worse as they face better teams. Now, obviously, Sean Asai knows this. It's not his fault that they're working with guys who are not the level of players that you were talking about earlier. It's Gardner Johnson at safety. At linebacker, obviously, with TJ Edwards and Kaiser White. So this is going to be a challenge for these coaches. They have who they have, and they're just going to make the best out of it.
All right, well, the challenge doesn't get any easier, Adam, because the Eagles have some injuries that we have to talk about, mostly on the defensive side, one important one on the offensive side. The defensive ones are, and this is just what we know about from practice so far, because they had walkthroughs on Tuesday and Wednesday, right? So I'm sorry, on Monday and Tuesday, they had walkthroughs. So all the practice reports are estimations. James Bradbury suffered a concussion in that game against the Patriots. He is in the protocol. It is very difficult to make it out of the protocol by a Thursday night game. So we're looking at, extremely. We're looking at the very strong potential of Josh Jobe starting opposite Darius Slay in this game. Reed Blankenship had ribs, which I never saw the play, but apparently he came out with ribs, and the same thing with Fletcher Cox. He also came out with some ribs busted up.
All right, Reed Blankenship. If you watched, I watched it. I actually watched that play like 5 times. It was kind of weird. Like he was going towards the sideline to make a play. He might have got cleated by the player from the other team in his ribs. It was kind of weird. It was kind of a weird play. And, he left the game and came back. So we soared, they held him out. They only had to walk through Tuesday. It's not a big deal that he didn't work. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't play, but let me tell you something. If he doesn't play, he's their best safety. You're looking at Edmonds and Evans. Evans started the game over Edmonds, and then they played him as box linebackers, and they moved him up. City Brown. Now this is an opportunity for City Brown. They don't have anybody else. That's it. I mean, it's practice squad. They can, by the way, elevate players the day of the game. The only safety they have on the roster on their 69-man roster is their practice squad guy, Tristan McCullum. Hasn't really played before.
Right.
Oh boy, they got some challenges here, man. The injuries, I know they're not serious, but these are problematic in terms of dealing with them early on and trying to figure out rotations. They're already weak at linebacker and safety, and now they're even weaker if these guys can't play.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're talking about 2/4 of your starting, or 2/5 of your starting secondary not being able to play if Bradbury and Blankenship are not able to play. And then when you just factor in the back end without Nakobe Dean, because everybody's involved in pass coverage outside of the front four, then it gets even dicier. Now, on the offensive side, again, I'm not quite sure when it happened, but Kenny Gainwell came out of there with what's up with ribs? This is like the Giants and their necks last year.
Weird. 3 of them. Yeah. So Fletcher Cox is expected to go. Again, I'd be surprised if Blankenship doesn't play, but if we just told you about what would happen if Blankenship doesn't play. Bradbury, super highly unlikely. I could only think, since the rules for concussions were adjusted and adopted and much stricter, I can only think of 2 players that played from they played Sunday and played Thursday night. It's highly, highly unlikely, almost impossible, because the league has told me, I've sat in their meetings with the media over the years at the Combine or Super Bowl when they update us on the concussion numbers and how the average time to recover. It's generally 7 days to recover from a concussion. So how the heck could a guy exit the protocol unless it really wasn't a concussion where a guy gets hit in the head? Let's see, he gets kicked. The guys, they took precautions, but it's really not a concussion. But they said this case it's a concussion. By the way, he saw his jersey bloodied. We don't know where that came from, but we wish him the best. And by the way, concussion's a brain injury. You have to be careful with these things.
Always.
So again, I'd be shocked if he played. And if he doesn't play, it's Josh Jobe. And that's the other thing. And we'll get into sort of the matchups and the rotations. This brings up another subject: is behind Jobe, who's the next man up?
Good point. Now Kelly Ringo was active, but only as a gunner on special teams. I don't think they want him playing corner. You would have to think that if Bradbury could not play, they would activate another corner, maybe Mario Goodrich or Eli Ricks, one of those two. I would imagine.
Active, yeah. Well, one of them would have to be active, if not both. So
yes.
You have to have 5 up.
Yep.
And yeah, you're right. It's a tough deal because Ringo right now really is not ready to play outside corner. I mean, he did not have a good training camp or preseason. You see some upside with him, obviously. There's talent there, but he needs work. And if I'm Minnesota, knowing the Eagles' injuries, I'm going in and playing super heavy 11 personnel. I mean, and now we'll get, before the show ends, we'll talk more about this on our Thursday pregame show from 5 to 7 Eastern tomorrow night with you and I and Cosell and Avant. But if I'm Kevin O'Connell, the head coach who calls the plays, I am going as much heavy 11 personnel as possible, because the Eagles now, with Bradbury likely out, they're just not good enough a corner. Slay had a good game, but the bottom line is I'm going after anyone I see on the field who's not Darius Slay.
That's good point. And I would probably incorporate a little hurry up after seeing New England come out with it, and I would try to maybe do it a little more just to limit the Eagles substitutions up front, because that's really where they've been able to dominate games. The Eagles have been. Last thing on Gainwell, again, unclear, but obviously if they were looking for a reason to get Rashad Penny active or even get more touches to DeAndre Swift, and if Gainwell is not part of the game plan, that would be in a good reason. All right. Inside the Birds is presented, of course, by our friends at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. It's the exclusive Jersey Shore resort of Inside the Birds. Let's pause for a second and hear from our friends at Ocean Casino Resort.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
All right, let's go through some of the offense coming out of week 1. It was not Jalen Hurts' best game. Obviously, the Patriots did a lot of things up front, Adam. They almost played like two styles of defense. First half, they were more aggressive, did some exotic things, you could say. Second half, they played a lot of more softer zone and forced Jalen to kind of go underneath. And there were times where he took it, and then sometimes where I noticed that, I don't want to say he retreated back to like 2 years, but there were times I felt he left the pocket and didn't see some of the guys who were open up front. You know, Goddard was open a couple of times, he didn't see it, and the running back Swift, there were a couple of times he was open underneath, and the ball did not go there, which goes back to our conversation about checking the ball down when you have the opportunity to do so.
Brian Johnson was actually talked about that specifically in his press conference. So when the ball could have gone elsewhere, now he did kind of say, well, maybe it was taken away from him. Maybe not. We're going to talk to John T. Filippo later today about it because he saw it, and I'm really curious. We're doing this for Patreon only. I'm really curious about what Flip sees when the guy's open. What are those conversations like on the sideline? Because I know they kind of ask, "What did you see?" What I want to know what those conversations are like, and what if it's, you know, because you have the Surface tablet.
Mm-hmm.
Do you show it to him? And then we show it to him and he does it again. We're like, what are these conversations like? Because this is what you worry about with Hurts, is that he was obviously brilliant last year. And Wentz had the same issue, that they want to make the big play. Because we saw that everyone saw the one where Goddard was screaming wide open, and it would have been for a big play, but he wanted for the home run ball.
Right.
I want to ask John, because he's watched the tape. Okay, as a play caller, where should have that ball gone? You were a quarterback's coach, you've called the plays. You've coached all these great. You coached Carson Wentz as well, and Carson Palmer as well. Like, what are these conversations like? I'm very curious to think what John thought of what should have happened there, and we'll find out. But to me, there were plays to be made, and when you look at Hurts here, I called it. The term is uneven.
Mm-hmm.
Another coaching term. I don't think he's very comfortable. That's what I've learned over the years, and I just don't think he looked like himself.
Yeah, I attribute that to the Patriots doing some different things. We talked about Bill Belichick probably, spending months and months on working for this game. And I it's funny how you phrased it, because I wrote it down in my notebook. There were plays to be made. That is true. There were, every once in a while, the Patriots played a lot of too deep. They definitely tried to keep things in front, but every once in a while they would leave one safety up and bring a few guys, and the Eagles would have it blocked up pretty well. And there were plays there to be made, and they just weren't made. And that's not all on Jalen Hurts, by the way. I think there was a drop. There were a couple of guys who I don't think ran great routes, but the bottom line is this is probably what they're going to be talking about all week as far as how to get better. And then, as you mentioned, no explosive plays. So maybe a little more dose of explosive playmakers like a DeAndre Swift. We'll see about Penny, and then trying to get that ball to Goddard in the middle. There were a couple of what do we always say about cover 3? Got to get the seams. Got to get the seams.
Right? It's tight end buster.
There were some
couple
of cover 3 looks where I thought there were some plays we made at the seams, and the ball just didn't go.
I've talked to coaches ad nauseum about this. Tight ends are cover 3 beaters always. No matter how you play it, that there's voids in it. It really bothered me, lack of explosive plays. This is really inexcusable. DeAndre Swift should not have played. If you're not going to use him, why is he out there?
Right.
This guy, Kenny Gainwell, how many times do we have to? This is 6 weeks now we've talked about. He's not explosive. We all know this. He's a grinder. That's not why. You have to have someone to complement him. These coaches, this love that these coaches have had for 3 years, we've talked about this since he was drafted. Enough of this already. He's good at grinding, but that's not good enough. Where are the explosives? You talked about the screen game, not there. Yes, they hit the target number I gave, 7, but that wasn't explosive.
Right.
I want to move off this. This is not acceptable. Rashad Penny should have been active. Here's why. Kentavious Street played 6 plays. Wasn't even on special teams. Who would you rather had? Let me throw it back to you before we move on to the next.
100% Rashad Penny.
Penny or Street?
And by the way, Street gave you 6 good reps, but at the end of the day, you could have gotten 6 good reps from the 4 other DTs that you got there, because everybody played fairly well. So I totally with you.
It's a numbers game, but it's got to be. I get it. It's week 1. They'll correct this.
Right. Now, offensive line was a little curious to me. I felt like Mailata and even Lane Johnson beaten by inside moves, something you don't ordinarily see. Cam Jurgens, I thought, held up well in his first start. There was a little bit of anchor. We talked about him with anchor and when he faces a really strong guy, and the Patriots have some really big, strong guys up front. So that's part of just how the game's going to go. In general, I thought he was fine, but I was a little surprised by the 2 tackles and allowing, I wouldn't say direct pressures, but getting sort of pushed back right into the quarterback and pinching that pocket. We don't ordinarily see that, but I also don't want to discredit the fact that New England has better linemen than people give them credit for.
Dallas Hack, Dietrich Wise, who Greg Cosell talked about in the pregame show. Philadelphia's young Christian Barmore, who played at Alabama. Lawrence Guy is a good player. Godshaw,
right,
is a good player. Yeah, they're really stout. They're not pass rushers per se, but they're stout. They're very strong.
Yes.
Now they've historically done poorly against running quarterbacks, but I got to give them credit. Belichick and Gerard Mayo had a very good game plan, and we'll learn more about that as the week goes on. We'll obviously have our pregame show, but other thing is, by the way, as we close off offense, Eagles were a very heavy 11 personnel, which Quez Watkins does he? I know we knew Zacchaeus wasn't going to play a lot going in unless he was going to punt return, which he didn't, but it just didn't work, to be honest with you. I mean, I know when you play 11, you want to spread them out, but it was not working for whatever reason.
Yeah. And there were opportunities, though. There were that's another guy. Slot receivers on cover 3s also can hit those seams.
But he's not a natural slot.
He's not. He is not. All right, just one game. We'll see how they turn around. But yeah, those were the things we noticed on offense, and we were told to look for on. As far as defense, I mean, listen. The defensive line, you don't really have to be a scholar of football to see that, especially the interior. I thought Fletcher Cox made his presence known in the snaps that he played, even as the game went on. And Jalen Carter from front to stop. If you would have told me going into the first game, Adam, that their 4-man rush, and by the way, we should mention that to begin with, that we've been saying in the preseason, this is much more of a 4-2 front than 5-1 Penny or 5-2. This is what we're used to seeing years ago, right? But if you would have told me the first pass rush line was going to have Jalen Carter in it, I would have been like, really? But he was out there and he was menacing.
He was the man. A couple things off that. I give them credit. I'm not a big fan of a 4-man front with this. I prefer the 5-man front with the 3D tackles. But as we told you at training camp, they weren't really doing it, very little, and they didn't really in this game. So that's probably a tell that this is the way it's going to stay. But you can't argue with 2 things. They completely shut down New England's run. Now when they played hurry up, they got them in the screen game with Stevenson. They shut down Ramondre Stevenson as a runner. Man, they got in the backfield. It was impressive.
They did.
Their D-line, their energy. Cox, see, it's funny. You remember how bad Cox and Hargrave were in the first game last year? They were terrible against Detroit. Their effort was awful. It wasn't like those. It wasn't.
No,
like
this was opposite. These guys look like they were shot out of a cannon.
Yeah, exactly right. They brought it. Jalen Carter was it's not even we all know this. Jalen Carter was the best player for this draft. The Panthers couldn't take him because they were taking a quarterback. All the other teams that passed on him, they didn't trust him. Okay, right. Eagles did.
Yep.
See how he handles himself off the field, but so far so good.
And Jordan Davis, by the way, He
looked better. Yep, he
much
looked
better.
So the tandem worked. Yeah. Now, I don't know about his weight. He certainly looks better. We don't know how much he weighs right now, but he's definitely down. He made some plays in this game. The bottom line is their line was dominant. Now, where they got crushed is smartly Bill O'Brien said, all right, we're done. We're getting out of Mac Jones's hands, and he did that. The best way to negate a pass rush is get out of the hands quickly within 2.2. And they did that, and that's when he started going off on the quick hitters over the middle. Eagles simply couldn't stop it. In fact, they should have gone to Hunter Henry early in the game. He might have had 15 catches. This might have been a middle game.
It's funny you said that because on the interception to Slay that went off, it was a bad pass. It went off Bourne's hands, was it? I can't remember whose hands it went off. But if you go back and watch that play on tape, Hunter Henry did a little inside and then up move on Zach Cunningham and was wide open. I mean, Zach Cunningham could not defend that move from Hunter. And by the way, Hunter Henry is really good. I'm not picking on Zach Cunningham. Like we said, Zach Cunningham is a good run stopping linebacker. And we said we wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots came out with multiple tight ends early and tried to pass on first down. That's exactly what they did. And if Mac Jones, who got a lot better after the middle of the second quarter, if he had just waited 1 millisecond more and hit Hunter Henry, and then instead of trying to hit Bourne there and threw a bad pass, then he probably would have had a first down on that, and who knows how the game goes. But he didn't, and that's what happened. So the Eagles benefited from it. But clearly, as you watch the game, you can see that they were going after Zach Cunningham on first and second down, and also throwing in Justin Evans' direction as well.
Oh, and Evans did start, and look, they just don't have the athlete back there at safety anymore with Gardner Johnson moving on, and that's just something they're going to have to deal with. It is what it is. Corner, Job came in for Bradbury late in the game. Their depth now going forward is going to be severely tested. We're going to learn how these undrafted kids are doing very quickly. Slay had a very good game, no doubt about it. But the thing where they got killed is the inside breaking routes. They once they figured out what the Eagles were doing, they just couldn't stop it. And then Bill O'Brien called a quick game, and this is what Brady did. Tom Brady would do it to teams. Peyton Manning, the best way to do it. It has little to do with how good your offensive line is. You actually help your offensive line. In fact, that's what Manning did. Their line was never as good as the public or the media thought. It's just as Peyton made him better because he'd get out where the football so quickly, wouldn't take sacks.
Right.
And when Mac Jones, when he got into rhythm, I'm like, holy smoke, could you get to this guy? Like,
oh, by the way, on that point, right, and we're talking about the secondary anyway.
Yep.
That touchdown that he threw to, I think it was Bourne, right? Right before the half. Reed Blankenship had pretty good coverage there. That was a heck of a throw. He was actually almost about to get hit, I think, by Jalen Carter, and that was a very perfectly placed ball. Yep. Got rid of it quick. And to the point on Reed Blankenship that you're making, he was there. That's every once in a while the quarterback just is better than you, right? And on that play, he was. Sure, but I thought Reed Blankenship was probably him and Darius Slay were the bright spots in the back end of the coverage. Slay had not only did he bait Jones into throwing that deep ball down the right side, and then he showed you his recovery speed. Oh yeah, he also blew up a screen. He tackled well, which corners to do that's pretty good. So yeah, those were two really big heroes for them.
You know what's interesting about Slay? Most people don't know this. He was really fast coming out of Mississippi State. I can't remember the reason why he wasn't drafted in the first round, but man, all those teams that didn't draft him in the first round and made a major mistake. He's not going to make the Hall of Fame. He's going to be in like the next notch down. He's a really good football player. What a trade that turned out to be for the Eagles, man. My goodness gracious. I give him credit for not giving up. They tried one year to do it. They couldn't get him. The next year they got him, and it was well worth it. Just to sum it up now, here's what we're looking at. What needs to be better. Hurts needs to be better, obviously. More explosives. Brian Johnson's got to get Swift involved. Get Penny in this game. I don't care if Gainwell's healthy or not. Here's another part of it. They need a help with Gainwell being a closer. He can't do it alone. He's not big enough physically. Get Penny in there. Offensive line needs to play better. Hassan Reddick was not much of a factor playing with a wrap on his hand. We thought that would be the case because it's new to him. D-line was incredible. Don't get caught on this. Do not get caught on the sack numbers. It's the pressure numbers. They were there, but they got negated when the ball came out of his hands. But what they need to do is press more, because that if you're going to get crushed on in breakers, you need to press. So they need to adjust that. And look, the safety play is a problem. So is the inside linebacker issues with depth and going against the pass. So it's going to be harder in this game because the Patriots, the Vikings have much better offensive personnel, skill position. So this game could be. We didn't think it would be high scoring. This last one, it was a weird game. This one, if it looks like it's going to be nice Thursday night, tomorrow night, this could be a fairly high scoring game. I know it's early in the season.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought, because we have to make a prediction, right? I mean, this is our last pod before the game. So before we make a prediction, I want to tell everybody about our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. Let's pause real quick to hear from our friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schiller, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, if you happen to go to Sky Motor Cars in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam just sent you. You'll get a great deal. If not, Inside the Birds. I'm sorry, go to Sky Motor Cars at skymotorcars.com. All right. So like you were saying, the first game we were pretty close on the predictions, right? Until that last touchdown there. This game, nice weather. What are you thinking? A little higher scoring or
I do, but I think 13 of the 16 games went under the total. We won. I remember Bill Polian telling us on our show, or the Hall of Fame general manager, it takes like 6 or 7 weeks for the offense to catch up, and then it's, then they take over. Maybe I think he said 6 or 7 weeks. It might have been shorter than that. Next time I talk to Bill, I ask him. But I look, obviously the Charger game was incredible. The Charger Dolphin game, oh my God, 70 points. It seemed like there were 100 points in that game. But this should be a fun game, and I'm telling you, as we go to the last segment here, the Vikings don't have Dalvin Cook. They're not explosive at running back. I like Chandler, the backup running back, but Madison's a all-around back. He blocks well for the run game, for the pass game. He's their starting back, but he's not explosive. They're really deep at receiver. They have an average offensive line, which is banged up. The Eagles should eat in that game. Their D line. Hawkinson's the guy to watch. He should have a major game for fantasy if you're into it. And defensively, the running Belichick scheme, but Brian Flores' version of it. It's going to be hard for him to get it down this early in the season. It's good that they're playing him at this point. Their pass rush isn't very good. They're not deep at corner. These matchups really favor the Eagles. I cannot wait to see Brian Johnson in his second game do better. I look, I get the criticism people have given him. I think most of it's fair, but the people thinking he's in over his head. It's one game.
Yeah. So what kind of score prediction you got?
I'm gonna go. I have no idea what the line is. 27-23 Eagles.
Oh my God. We are so locked. You and I both picked Josh Sweat, even though we were wrong as the player of the game. We almost picked identical scores last week for the Patriots, and I was thinking the exact same score as you.
27-23?
I have written down 27-23. Yes.
I had
Eagles win.
I had them winning by 6 last week. They won by 5. I look, we told you it was going to be ugly.
Yeah.
It was an awful game to watch. I mean, it rained. It was sloppy. We should mention that in the first half. It was the Patriots shooting themselves in the foot, much like the Giants did. But the difference is the Patriots, they said enough of this, and they came back. Eagles almost blew it, where the Giants got shut out 40-0 at home. But this is going to be a fun game. I'm looking forward to it. And I cannot wait to do the pregame show. And the guy, by the way, Cosell and Avant were brilliant, folks. If you didn't see it, you could still, we archive all of our shows. And that was an incredible job, and good job by you hosting it. It wasn't easy with the traffic, and great information. The stuff, the stories, and the detail that those guys. Oh, by the way, Clay Harbor on our post-game show detailing what it's like to play for Belichick was incredible.
Yeah, it was fantastic. He's been a great addition. So tonight, sometime after 9 o'clock, probably you'll get Clay Harbor, Greg Cosell in the Inside the Tape breakdown. And then, of course, our Inside the Birds pregame live, me, Caplan, Cosell, and Avant on Thursday at 5 p.m. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the Birds.